Welcome to Fiery Discourse, your podcast and media featuring dragonesses, female dinosaurs, and other similar saurians and scalies. I'm your host, Ludmillanon, and with me are my co-hosts, Angron, Mathmachine, the Shark, and our special guest this week is Sharvoun. Today is our 138th episode, and we're discussing the 2004 Powerpuff Girls episode, That's Not My Baby. So, let's get things started.
Sugar, spice, and everything nice. These were the ingredients needed to make the perfect little girls. But Professor Utonium accidentally added an extra ingredient to the concoction. Chemical X. And thus, the Powerpuff Girls were born. Using their ultra superpowers, Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup have dedicated their lives to fighting crime and the forces of evil.
Perfect way to begin it. But yeah, as everybody knows, Powerpuff Girls was the biggest success of Cartoon Network's history for a very, very long time. Pretty much everybody who was alive in 1998, 1999 knows what it is, but for those of you who don't, the show is about three superpowered little girls, Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup, as they all get into various misadventures and have various villains. Powerpuff Girls was so huge, it even got a theatrical movie that unfortunately underperformed both critically and at the box office. Because of this, the creator Craig McCracken slightly stepped down after the box office failure of the movie to begin working on another show, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. But this one is a pretty good episode from the final season, which a lot of people generally consider to be weaker than the other episodes, but at the same time, it has a lot of fun moments, and we'll get to that in a minute. But first, go ahead, Angron.
Yeah, I remember growing up with a few things of the Powerpuff Girls. Mainly like the GBA game Battle Him, which was part of the trilogy of Game Boy Color games where Blossom battled Mojo Jojo, Bubbles battled him, and Buttercup battled the Green Gang. But then I listened to the show's theme as well, and let's just say I was kind of inspired by that. It wasn't a big quote-unquote part of my childhood, but let's just put it nicely and say it had a hand in helping mold me as an individual for the most part. Sharvoun?
One thing to note about this specific episode is that it was written by none other than what I consider the grandfather of 2010 animation, Thurop Van Orman, the creator of The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack, as well as the voice of Gideon and the supplier of many nights.
Going back to the movie, that box office failure was actually more impactful than you think, because not only did they make the main guy step down, but Cartoon Network was originally going to plan to make many theatrical releases to their shows, but because of Powerpuff Girls, they said, no, this is not worth it, and many of their movies went straight to TV, like Ed and Eddie was going to be a theater release, but because of that, it did not happen.
That makes sense, yeah.
There also was a Johnny Bravo movie that sadly was never made. And yeah, it is a shame because definitely if there was, it would have been a lot of fun, to get all these movies based on Cartoon Network properties. But regardless, it's still a really good movie, and check it out if you haven't. This episode, of course, begins, as all of them do, with the theme song, which begins with Tom Kenny's narration, who's an absolute legend. We get the instrumental breakdown, which is equally awesome. And yeah, this is from the final season of the show. Oh, go ahead, Shark.
Oh yeah, before we leave the intro, it's kind of funny that the show had like the whole stereotype that it's Powerpuff Girls, it's a show for girls and blah blah blah. And it's like, my dude, if you watch the intro, you'd see Buttercup kicking him, and he bleeds from the mouth. One of his teeth fall off with blood all over the place. So yeah, just because the protagonists are girls doesn't mean it's a girl show.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why Craig made the movie so dark, was because he was absolutely sick to death of like Powerpuff Girls lip gloss, Powerpuff Girls eyeliner, Powerpuff Girls. Ironically enough, they never made Powerpuff Girls powder puffs. You think that'd be obvious, but never did it. Go ahead, Angron.
Yeah, and also this music is just catchy. Good lordy, the drums, the guitars, just everything about it screams action-packed, despite also being ironically girl-coded. And it's not, but let's be honest, we were all thinking it. And yeah, so many great memories listening to that theme.
What I really love is Tom Kenny has proven in the past before that he can do absolutely no wrong. Here, he gives the whole opening a sense of mystery and even sort of dread. The chemical X is spilled. You actually kind of fear what's going to happen. Chemical X.
Yes. Also, I think my favorite parody of this would have to be the one by Pymation. Water, noodles, ramen mix. These were the perfect ingredients needed to make the ultimate ramen. But Professor Utonium accidentally added an extra ingredient to the concoction. Dank memes. Yeah, Pymations was cooking that day, and not just the ramen either. Shout out to him.
Nice. But yeah, so basically what happens is the episode begins, as all episodes do, with the narrator saying, "The city of Townsville," before he promptly adds, "is being attacked by a giant angry monster." And of course, we then get to see all the citizens in Townsville fleeing from the giant monster, and we're actually going to do something a little different in this one. We're going to discuss the design of the monster in full detail later on in the episode for one particular reason, and that's because the design of the monster is kind of directly linked to, quote-unquote, the ending of it, so I'll kind of put a little rain check on it for now. A citizen mentions that the monster is approaching a baby carriage as the monster does so. It reaches down to grab the baby carriage, but before it can grab the baby inside of it, the Powerpuff Girls arrive. Buttercup gives the monster an uppercut while Blossom grabs its tail, causing the monster to fall to the ground as it pick up the baby carriage. There's one really noticeable animation error here. I think it's like linger on it just long enough. When the girls hold up the baby carriage, Buttercup's dress and outfit in that is colored the exact same shade as Bubbles, which is kind of really noticeable. I'm surprised a show like this had an error like that, but still pretty noticeable.
I really like the order, like what you mentioned. It really does highlight the characters' personalities, and Buttercup goes in for the punch. Blossom makes sure the beast is incapacitated, and Bubbles goes straight to protecting. Like, it's a full demonstration of each character's personality.
And like I say, you really feel like these characters are just so well made. They really, really feel like a unit, and that's the reason why this show works so well. And the attempts at making more of them do not, but we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, and also, I think the ending theme pretty much summarizes their characters to a T. Blossom, Commander and the leader, Bubbles. She is the joy and the laughter, Buttercup. She is the toughest fighter, Powerpuff saved the day.
What happens is, in a really, really funny gag, a kid cheers to the Powerpuff Girls, then remarks, "Oh, it'd be terrible if there was a baby in the carriage."
Yeah.
And the man from earlier nod for an extremely long time. And I will say this, I love to keep the tradition of Townsville citizens being dumber than a bag of rocks. And Tom Kenny's voice of the kid is so hilariously stupid, it really got a good laugh out of me. Of course, the girls end up looking in the carriage to see that it is empty. Then they hear the baby crying. The monster has the baby in its arms and roars loudly. Bubbles flies over and punches the monster in the stomach, then catches the baby. The narrator now says that peace has been restored as Bubble hands the baby over to a woman, noting how cute it is. The woman agrees before saying that it's not her baby. Title drop, haha. Bubbles then gives it to another woman who says that it is not hers, then does the same with another woman. A man standing by a woman says that it is his, but his wife/girlfriend elbows him as he admits it's not him. And come on, Bubbles, you were so close to greatness right there. We could have had the Cartoon Network equivalent of Raising Arizona.
Yeah, I love that scene in particular because that guy's yeah, he definitely wanted one, but his wife is just like, come on, tell the truth. No, there's a bit of underlying notion with that honestly is pretty hilarious if you think about it. Anyway, it's Sharvoun.
That Buttercup is upset. She yells if anyone else knows whose baby this is. The civilians all shake their heads no in a long panning shot, and in a really hilarious blink and you miss it gag, we see the monster being hoisted up onto a crane and being taken to an immigration center. It's one of those jokes that really just lasts for 5 seconds, but it is funny. It is so well written in that. I give them credit. The 5th season of Powerpuff Girls, or 6th season actually, is really well written. It's a lot better written than I think a lot of people remember. I mean, is every episode great? No, but there are a lot more fun ones than you remember, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Buttercup then asks what they should do now, as Blossom says they should find more mothers. We then cut to them outside of the local supermarket as the girls ask various women if the baby is their baby. And one thing to point out, one of the women in this montage looks disturbingly similar to Lois Griffin. It literally is the same design as Lois. She's just wearing a red shirt instead of a green one. It makes me wonder, hey, Lois, remember the time we went to Townsville and met the Powerpuff Girls?
Yeah, they were asking if we could look at a baby. Aw, it was so cute. I wonder what happened to that baby. Oh, you don't want to know. Also, it's like, good lordy, I can name several moms that you can absolutely leave that kid with. Let's see, off the top of my head, Zubea, that one Mama T-Rex, I guess. I mean, Ash's Dragonite's pretty good at parent. But yeah, you all are looking in the wrong places. Also, there's this one woman who looks dead identical to the baby, except she's bigger and clearly in need of some outlets, as it were. Anyway, Sharvoun?
First of all, to quote Rarity, no spoilers! Second of all, a woman who happens to look like a giant baby, and it doesn't look like her. Yep, this is definitely the creator of Flapjack, all right.
The joke with the woman being a giant version of like the baby complete with diaper, it really does show how Powerpuff Girls' style of humor got way sillier as the show went on. Like, I cannot see like the first couple of seasons make this kind of joke, but at the same time, it doesn't really distract from it. It's one of those jokes that it does work for what the episode is trying to accomplish, you know? Like, I feel like at this point, the show basically was, let's throw everything against the wall and see what sticks, you know?
Something really mentioned about the joke is that you don't see her on screen first. You see the girls going to her in her point of view, saying, "Hi, is this your baby?" And you hear the woman, "What? That the baby doesn't look anything like me." And then the camera changes, and you see that no, she looks exactly like the baby.
Say that's the joke, and like I say, I think why it works is the timing. It really does work out for the best. Blossom then says they went to every woman in town to ask about the baby. Basically, they didn't go to everybody, though. They should have gone to Samus. Samus loves the baby.
Wrong baby.
Had to mention it. But yeah, Buttercup then says they should go get a babysitter. The girls then go to Pokey Oaks Kindergarten, where they go see their teacher, Miss Keene. And one thing that I have to point out, I did not get the Miss Keene joke until I saw the Tim Burton movie Big Eyes, because Margaret Keene was an artist who did paintings of children with like large eyes and that, kind of like the Powerpuff Girls themselves. Her husband took all the credit and he was a real bastard, and it's a really, really good biopic. If you haven't seen the movie Big Eyes, check it out. It is really well made.
As a Tim Burton fan, I second that. It's a damn good movie with a great performance from Amy Adams. Watch it!
Miss Keene tells the girls at the school it out hours ago, but the girls say they have a surprise for her. She asks if it's apples again, before the girls ends up showing her the baby. Miss Keene asks where they got that baby, if they ask if she could watch it. Miss Keene says she can't, says Bubbles says that she loves kids. Miss Keene nervously says that she does love kids, and that's why she's there grading all the homework. We then see her hiding a garbage can filled with rotten apples underneath her desk, as she says she wants her kids to learn before telling them they have a big day tomorrow, and gee, I thought they were with Miss Keene, not Mrs. Puff.
Anyway, it's Shark.
It will, yeah, that garbage can full of apples will explain how SpongeBob ID will end in the garbage as well.
Yeah, it reminds me of an earlier joke where Miss Keene writes out an overly complicated equation earlier in the show. Like, makes me think she might like Mrs. Puff. She was destined for college, for teaching college, but she got into legal trouble and is now forced to teach kindergarten.
Her basically explaining, "Oh, of course I love children, but I'm good with school children, not necessarily babies." I could be wrong. This could be a sort of Mandela effect thing, but either way, yeah, I think I remember that at some point, but it didn't show up here.
We then cut to the mayor's office, where Miss Bellum says that she wants to help, but she can't, as she has a baby to take care of. Bubbles is excited about this as we hear him whining from off screen. It turns out to be the mayor from Townsville, who is busy complaining about why they can't name Main Street after him instead. And I'm going to say this right now, the mayor is an absolute highlight of the show, and he is hilarious, even in like the worst episodes. Like, while he considered to be the worst episode where the mayor becomes a giant and destroys the town, it is still worth watching just for Tom Kenny's performance, because he is hysterical. And like I say, he does an amazing job as always. And one thing to point out, the mayor's voice is an imitation of Frank Morgan. Now, you probably don't know the name, but you do know the actor. He was the wizard in The Wizard of Oz. You know, there's one thing you don't have, my dear friend. You need a testimonial. Yeah, the mayor is the same voice as the wizard from The Wizard of Oz. Once you hear that, You will never not hear it.
I mean, to be fair, Mung Dahl has the same voice going on. But yeah, that was quite a surprise for me too. Also, I will say this. I honestly think that this season, the mayor is worse compared to previous seasons. Like, sure, in those he was still a kid, but he still had the maturity to ultimately be like a fun, compelling character, wise beyond his years, a very just mayor, as it were. But he could also indulge in some pretty dang silly gaffes, like accidentally slashing Navi in Ocarina of Time. Something we all like to do. Or something most of us would like to do.
Yep.
Easily. But Miss Bellum notes that the mayor is a big baby, as the mayor perks up at seeing it, saying how he thinks babies are so cute. He says he will take it, as I love Blossom's ew no face. It's just so amazing here. Like, just her like disgust over the idea of giving the mayor the baby to watch over is really, really funny.
Yeah.
The mayor says that I can do it. I'm not doing anything. As Miss Bellum says that she has her warm milk inside of a bottle as he runs for it off screen. He drinks it as Buttercup calls him a baby. We then get another transition, which this too really points out how more gag-like this show feels compared to how the earlier seasons were that tried to base it in reality. I feel like by like season 5 or season 6, the show completely became like a Spongebob type of show where any kind of joke could happen at any time, which honestly, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt it. You know, I like both styles of it, but they go to the house of the old woman who lived in a shoe as she comes out with a very weary and tired look with hundreds of kids around her. Blossom then says, you look like you like kids, as she just gets the door slammed in her face. And man, what a disappointment. I expected way more out of the Powerpuff Girls March of the Wooden Soldiers crossover. They didn't have Laurel and Hardy, they didn't have Barnaby, they didn't have Bo Peep or Tom Thumb or any of that. No, but what a missed opportunity right here, They didn't even have the cool stop motion sequence. For shame, Cartoon Network.
Nice. Also, yeah, that lady looks like, well, she likes kids, but I think that has ultimately gone away over the years. Also, to double back on what you said about it being a gimmicky show, I think even before season 5 it was more or less gimmicky, but the gimmicks had a point. They were trying to teach the girls a lesson, and to be perfectly honest, they worked a little better than they did in the later seasons. Compared to the later seasons who just threw gimmicks against the wall to see if they worked, the gimmicks back then actually hit and they worked. And we'll explain more on that a little later. But for right now, keep that in mind because we're going to cover it.
Yeah, no, definitely. So what happens next, though, is the girls now have the baby in their house, and they're basically trying to wonder if they can take care of it and that. Buttercup says it's a bad idea, as Bubbles notes that if they get a good job, the professor is going to let them have a hamster. And it's here we get what, for me, is the funniest joke of the episode, because we get a really long take of Blossom and Buttercup staring at each other in confusion and disgust, before they then high-five. They're saying, all right, we're going to get a hamster. That, to me, is the funniest joke, because I love the subversion. They hang on it just long enough to you think you know where the joke is going. It's going to be like they're going to say, oh, Bubbles, you're so stupid or something, but to have them be all for it, that really got a good laugh out of me, It's just that, like a little twist of expectation. That really, really worked. Oh, go ahead, Chuck.
Yeah, it's a funny gag, but still kind of surprising they still want a pet, because they had a cat once and it did not go well.
Nope, definitely not. But Bubbles then says that they're superheroes and that it can't be that hard. We then, of course, cut to the baby crying as they wonder what it wants. But Buttercup asks what babies eat as Bubbles flies off, coming back with a veggie burger. Obviously, what's going to happen is the baby's going to reject it, and she's going to give him a tiny veggie burger. Buttercup yells that babies don't have teeth as Bubbles tries chewing it for the baby. Blossom and Buttercup says that that's gross, with Bubbles retorting that birds do it. Buttercup yells that birds also eat worms, and at this point, it really struck me. We're just doing Rockabye Bivalve here. It's like, at one point, are we going to see a scene where Bubbles goes to work, where she just sits down and watches Mojo Jojo getting hit in the head with 2 coconuts?
Oh my gosh. Also, yeah, this, like, honestly, like, Bubbles, I get where you're coming from, and you're on the right track. But at the same time, not only what we've covered is what's wrong with that. That kid's immune system ain't exactly developed yet.
Well, we'll find out why later, but go ahead, Sharvoun.
Honestly, if anybody's going to be going to work and watching Mojo Jojo get hit with coconuts, it's going to be Buttercup, except she's going to supply the coconut.
Blossom then suggested to give the baby something softer like chili. Bubbles and Buttercup note that it smells like the baby already ate chili, as it turns out they have to change the diaper. Bubbles and Buttercup try getting Blossom to do it, saying it's her duty, then laughing at the childish pun because, again, they are kindergartners. Blossom points out that Buttercup likes being stinky, which is a reference to an earlier episode. I give him credit where credit is due, that Powerpuff Girls was a very continuity-driven show. You know, like, I give them all the credit in the world for doing that, especially when this was made. But Buttercup says they should make Bubbles do it as she acts like a baby, before Blossom says that they should do it together. By using their superpowers, they manage to change the baby easily, as Blossom says that it's going to be easy, with Bubbles and Buttercup high-fiving, cheering that they're finally going to get that hamster. And again, a perfect use of that joke, like a perfect callback at the perfect time, you know? Like, I give them credit is due. This episode is really well written. Like, would it fit as well in, like, season 2? Probably not, but it definitely feels like Powerpuff Girls. That's what I'm trying to get at here. We then cut to the girls in their room, as the baby is now busy repeatedly tugging at Blossom's hair, getting her annoyed. Bubbles teases her about saying how it was going to be all easy, as she notes how the baby is playing with Octi, her stuffed animal, just fine. The baby then inserts Octi into its mouth, as she tells him to play nice. The baby then takes Octi out of its mouth before putting it back in, which ends up ripping Octi's head right off, which, second time we've discussed the decapitation in 2 weeks. Pretty interesting right there.
I like to think that the baby playing with Blossom's hair is a semi-callback to the episode where Blossom gets her hair cut off.
Buttercup then tells Bubbles to quit being such a baby and that they're superheroes. The baby ends up knocking down Buttercup's block tower, and Buttercup says that they have to get rid of the baby, as the other two are forced to agree. Oh, before that, go ahead, Angron.
Moment of silence for Octi in the chat. And now we're back. Anyway, Shark.
Yeah, something I noticed it in that bit where the baby destroys a Buttercup tower. I guess that baby has superpowers because the towers fell off before the baby entered into frame. So, yep, he's a psychic. Yeah, it's an animation error there.
Yep. Well, it does tie into something we learn about it later on in the episode, so maybe it was foreshadowing. Probably not, but who knows? What happens, though, is we then cut to them at night, as the girls say they'll find the baby's mother tomorrow and everything will be back to normal. They have the baby on a set of newspapers in their bed in a really cute gag, and one thing to point out here that is interesting, the whole episode is about the girls taking care of a baby and that, and saying about how the professor's going to be proud of them. The professor, Professor Newtonium, he does not appear a single time in this episode. Like, he does not even appear in, like, a picture or anything like that, which is very strange choice, but I guess it kind of works for the story. The girls prepare to go to sleep, only for the baby's crying to wake them off. Blossom and Buttercup tell Bubbles it is her turn to take care of the baby as she flies off. She arrives at the bottle, feeding the baby milk until it goes to sleep. Blossom and Buttercup are amazed at what Bubbles did, as she notices the baby is making cute noises. The baby then belches loudly, as Blossom and Buttercup ask what was in that milk. Bubbles notes that it was made out of veggie burger, as she grins nervously, which, I don't want to know how that works, but definitely an interesting choice right there. Anyway, go ahead, Sharvoun.
Anyways, I'm disappointed Professor Utonium wasn't there, because he could have made a joke about the girls asking how he took care of babies. He's like, I don't know, you were normal 5-year-old girls.
Yeah, I can kind of see that, but at the same time, like I said, I guess it was for the episode, it would work better without him, because it would make the girls more on their own, and it does work in a way. But anyway, we then get a montage of the baby crying for hours on end while the girls try to sleep but find they can't. The girls eventually get to sleep as it seems like the baby has stopped crying, only for it to be because the baby is missing. The girls look through the house and find no sign of the baby before Buttercup notices an open door. They wonder if the baby went outside, then go outside. They see an ordinary dog sucking on its pacifier, and this is the moment that really reminded me of Flapjack the most, because basically we see a shot of the dog sucking on the pacifier normally, then we get an extreme close-up of the dog snarling in the camera with an enraged face. It's almost like a jump scare in a way, and it caught me off guard, but also got a good laugh out of me. It definitely, you can tell that the guy who made Flapjack made this, because that is absolutely a joke they would pull on that kind of show, you know?
Definitely.
They then see the rattle in the middle of the road before it gets run over, and wow, I did not know Powerpuff Girls had the guts to adapt Pet Cemetery. Sometimes dead is better.
Yikes.
Probably the darkest joke we ever made in this podcast, but well, can't have them all. Anyway, go ahead, Shark.
Yeah, that sequence of the girls looking for the baby and seeing things of baby things and thinking that the baby got killed. It reminds me of a sequence in the foster home episode Say Cheese, where Blue is looking for cheese and he's seeing stuff and having imagined spots of cheese freaking dying to some things like getting electrocuted or a piano falling on him, and it's like, oh, okay, I can see one influenced the other clearly now.
Huh, that is really interesting. I did not know that. Of course, haven't seen Foster's in many years. Got to catch up on that show. But anyway, go ahead, Sharvoun.
This is the girls' paranoia getting the better of them, like they're seeing all the dangerous things that could affect them. Also, I had a joke about Thorpe Van Orman, but actually he did make a joke like that, except instead of using a dog, he used a cat. And that cat was of the devil.
Bubbles then says they should tell the professor, as Buttercup says the professor won't even let them have a pet, so he'll be upset at them having a baby. Bubbles yells that Buttercup should have a better idea, as Blossom sees the baby on a pole and gets it down. The girls vow to take better care of the baby, and we cut to it crying as the girls try to sleep but can't because it's crying so loudly. Blossom complains about her back, Buttercup complains about the crying, and Bubbles says that she is so tired she cannot think of anything else. Buttercup says they're going to have to ditch the baby, but Blossom retorts they can't just put it on someone's doorstep in a basket. Buttercup says they do it on TV, with Bubbles replying, "We're not on TV." Haha, breaking the fourth wall there.
Yep.
Blossom says that Bubbles is right and that they have to do the right thing. We then see the baby crying somehow louder than ever before, as it's now daytime and the girls are totally stressed out. Bubbles notes that she saw some baskets downtown as they fly off to get some, and interesting thing here, Tara Strong's voice in this moment sounds a lot different than any other time she voiced Bubbles. It sounds more like her normal speaking voice, which I think that was the joke, but, not entirely sure, but that probably was the joke. But anyway, the girls then fly downtown to try and get some before they see the monster from the beginning of the episode. And one thing I do love, Buttercup's first instinct upon seeing the monster there just sitting there, like not doing anything, is to say, "Let's go punch it in the face." I love that. That is the first thing she thinks of doing with this giant monster. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
That's typical Buttercup. Sees monster, immediately like, just punch him in the face. And here is ultimately where we get the big surprise of the series, because the monster immediately turns around and in a feminine voice, it goes, "My baby!"
Not just a feminine voice,
Nice.
but a feminine voice by the great Grey Delisle.
It's at this point we're going to discuss the monster's design, because if you know what it's making fun of, it kind of spoils the plot twist, because the monster has basically a black and green color design with ear fronds and a horn on her head. She's very reptilian that way. She basically is a spoof of Agra from the movie Gorgo, which we have discussed previously, and we are going to redo an episode on that again because I feel like there's a lot more to discuss with that episode that we didn't get to, but that's for the future.
Yep.
But
Stay tuned.
Yeah, the monster mother is a spoof of a famous kaiju mother from another movie. So if you know your kaijus, as soon as it comes on, the first time I saw this, for this episode, I thought, oh, okay, it's Agra from Gorgo. We're just doing that. That's the punchline, But obviously for kids who've never seen kaiju movies, they wouldn't get it. But for kaiju fans, it's kind of a little wink to them because Powerpuff Girls definitely knew their kaiju, because I think they're the only show that had a major villain episode just be Hedorah from Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster. That is a level of detail,
What I find most interesting about all this is that this is the third time we have had this very specific joke where the brainless creature, or the presumed brainless creature, ends up being the mother and or speaks in a very intelligent way. It was first with Crypto, then with the Puss in Boots series, and now this. If I may Doofenshmirtz for a minute, and if I had a nickel for every time that this weirdly specific joke happened, I'd have 3 nickels, which isn't a lot, but that's kind of weird.
Yeah, it definitely is. Like I say, it's one of those things that I wonder if we'll find more examples of it in the future,
I hope so.
Me too, because it's a lot of fun. But Blossom says that the baby doesn't look anything like the monster as she looks down to see its empty skin. And this is another moment that is just so dark, but it got a good laugh out of me. It's because Buttercup's cheers and fist pumps, basically saying, "Oh yeah," because they don't have to take care of it anymore, as the other two stare at her angrily. And they say, that is a really dark joke for this show, you know? I give them credit where credit's due for going there. But it turns out that it wasn't the baby melting, it actually was the baby's larval form, because it turns out that the baby now looks like her. So the whole time they were raising the monster's child, and the monster's larval form just happens to look like a human baby exactly, which definitely interesting biology there, but hey, it's a cartoon. What do you want? Go ahead, Angron.
That reminds me of two things. The first is there's this one book from the Star Wars series where there are these two kids who are traveling with this old guy, a robot who is scarred, where they come across an abandoned planet with an organism inside, aptly dubbed Epon, when in truth it is actually a bioweapon created by the Empire for nefarious purposes. As it evolves, it gets a lot more dangerous. It starts out looking pretty human, older in a rapid. It becomes a lot more xenomorph-like. Anyway, Shark.
So yeah, the joke Lud made a long time ago about Samus being a perfect choice really reflects here, because yep, the baby was also a larva in Metroid. In the Metroid game, we found them. But the main difference here is that, well, this baby did find his mother, and that's gonna be a great thing for them. The baby came across mother brain, and
something to take
did
mother brain
not
on.
end well for that one.
Also, I do love how she refers to it as an ugly larvae. Like, she legit thinks the human species is ugly, which, okay, fair enough, but still.
But the baby flies over to her, she hugs it, calling it Mama's little terror. Blossom notes basically with sarcastically, that sounds about right. The monster then walks out with her baby in tow, smashing several cars and buildings with her tail. And this is also actually another spoof of Gorgo, because in the end of that movie, when Agra and Gorgo return to the sea, they smash some buildings and boats as they leave, and the little orphan child says, they're going back to the sea, and like a big swelling thing, even though like London is literally burning in the background in that, and like hundreds of thousands of people are dead, and it's a big romantic moment. I think this is spoofing that in its own way, and it's a pretty clever way of spoofing that movie. But Buttercup prepares to fight the monster mother again, but Blossom stops her, saying that the baby is punishment enough. We then get them nodding for a pretty long while, which makes me wonder if it's some kind of a time filler rather, but the narrator ends the episode by saying this time, once again, the diaper is changed, thanks to the Powerpuff Girls. And then, of course, he says, hold the chili, as we get, of course, the famous ending shot of the girls, and the end title card pops up.
I like about the scene where she's going and is smashing everything in her pad is that you don't hear any screaming from the people, but you do hear some guy going, hey, watch it, when they wreck their car, so he has his priorities.
Like, the Townsville is so used to giant monsters at this point, it's like, it's a fact of life. It's like, oh, there's a giant monster rampaging through the city. Oh, well, what can you do? You know, I do love that.
When a monster is just walking through and being all like, I'm just carrying my baby to the supermarket and whatnot. I think that's when panic isn't really necessary. Like, sure, there's a bit of damage, but with the people not being harmed and nothing really bad happening in that moment, it can get a pass.
Yeah. Sharvoun?
I have to say that the city of Townsville has worse luck than the city of Gotham and the city of Metropolis combined.
For this episode, and we're not going to talk about the other one, even though it is a very, very funny one. If you haven't seen it, go look it up. It's called Simeon Says. It is one of the highlights of the final season because it's about Mojo Jojo kidnapping the narrator and narrating the show. And it goes off the rails pretty quickly because just from his opening, the city of Townsville, even though it is not a town nor a village, it should be called the city of City, but that would be redundant, and I do not like redundancy. And then it just snowballs from there, and man, it is hilarious. If you haven't seen that one, definitely check it out. But yeah, this was the final season of the Powerpuff Girls. Cartoon Network wanted to make a season 7, a season 8, a season 9. They were going to go full steam ahead in the Powerpuff Girls train, They really were going to take this thing and milk it for all it was worth. But Craig and Chris Savino, they basically agreed that the show should end at that point because they were literally out of ideas because why wouldn't you be after 6 seasons of this? And basically, even though this version of the show has ended, Powerpuff Girls has still always remained in the public eye since then, with 2 reunion movies in 2011 and 2013, respectively. An anime adaptation in the 2000s, Powerpuff Girls Z, which really has nothing to do with the actual original show, but it's fun in its own way. It really, really is. And another reboot in the 2010s. This one, of course, was very poorly received by pretty much everybody because it took the original show but let's put it this way. They did a lot of things that I don't think a lot of the fans nor kids would like. And unfortunately, it did last for a while because then Cartoon Network was just pumping all resources in it. But regardless, the Powerpuff Girls reboot, don't watch it. It's not very good. But still, Powerpuff Girls as a whole is still really, really popular to this day. Of course, there was also going to be a CW live action show, which, let's just say, put it that way. Read the script on your own time because, whoa boy. Anyway, definitely not good. And one last thing. As of this recording, Craig McCracken is working on a reboot of Powerpuff Girls. He's also working on a Foster's preschool show, which should be interesting to see. But he's also working on a Powerpuff Girls reboot, and I think it can work. I really think with Craig at the realm, it could really, really work. But anyway, let's get to the question of the week. Before that, Sharvoun, what would you like to say?
First of all, that reboot is still better than Teen Titans Go. And second, one thing I really hope that Craig McCracken does with the reboot is he hopefully ages up the Powerpuff Girls. I wouldn't actually mind seeing them tackle teenager issues, and not just in a joke way, but in a more serious way. I mean, these would be super-powered teenagers. Be the Incredibles before the Incredibles do it, because the Incredibles are too lazy to be the Incredibles if they mature the kids up a bit,
Yep. So anyway, Shark, you were saying?
To see how unpopular was the 2016 review, not only with the fans, but with the creator himself, in the final episode of the Jellystone special, the one with all the Cartoon Network characters, there's a fight scene at the end, and if you look closely, you can see the original Bubbles punching the 2016 Bubbles. This was specifically requested by Craig himself.
That was really, really hilarious, like I say. And again, Powerpuff Girls is a show that really, really holds up. And if you haven't seen the original show in a while, check it out. It really, really does work. But that's going to lead to the question of the week, which is, what is your favorite Powerpuff Girls episode? I'll go first. And my favorite, I have 2 of them, actually. And the first one is going to be the episode with the Powerpuff Girls' birthday, because it really feels like the perfect encapsulation of the show as a whole, because you get all the great villains. You got Mojo Jojo, you got Princess, you got the Amoebas, who, honestly, as a kid, and even now, the Amoebas are my favorite villains just because they are so funny. Their scheme in this episode is to send the girls voodoo dolls. Send the girls voodoo dolls. And basically what happens is they see it and they think dollies and they think, oh, thank you, Amoeba boys. And we get a hilarious, wow, what do you think? You idiots, you are not supposed to send them the dolls. You are supposed to stick the needles in the dolls. And then we cut back to the Amoeba boys and they're shoving the needles inside of each other. And the leader is like, oh, wow, really? Like I say, it is just so hilarious. And of course, HIM shows up and he's creepy as always, but he's also really, really funny because when his scheme of making a piñata fails and candy falls everywhere, he says, oh, my scheme worked. I'm going to give them all tooth decay. And that is so funny, It really, really perfect punchline. And again, that's an episode that I feel if you've never seen Powerpuff Girls, definitely watch that one first because it's a great introductory episode. My second episode that's my favorite is going to be the Powerpuff Girls Rainy Day Adventure, or whatever it's called, because that is just a hilarious self-parody of the show, while also basically pointing out how much kids like the shows in general and pretended to do it. Like, the girls pretending to be the Powerpuff Girls is really, really hilarious, and also has some other great moments, such as Bubbles pretending to be the mayor. She calls the hotline, and the mayor picks up, and he says, what? An alligator? don't worry, I'm on my way. And he immediately jumps out the window. I love it, And of course, he lands in the mud, and Mrs. Balance just walks up to him, and he's like, oh, I fell in the mud. It's like such perfect writing right there. And of course, we have the part where the girls are arguing which one wants to be the Powerpuff Girls. Buttercup plays Blossom, and Bubbles plays Buttercup. And they have to have the professor play Bubbles, when he is not for it. Because here is basically what he does. Fly, 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 pow, bye, 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 bye. And he runs out the room. It is so hilarious because he's in like a Bubbles dress. His hair is done in pigtails, and he still has his underwear on over it. And it's like, it is so hilarious looking. And again, Tom Kane's performance really, really works as well. And again, it's just such a love letter to the show itself as a whole. Because again, it really feels like Craig and the crew acknowledging how much kids like the Powerpuff Girls. And, it's like, it teaches kids basically, with the like TV superheroes, that you can have fun using your imagination with them. And I like that. I like that a lot. It's funny. It's got a great message. And overall, it's really one of the most memorable episodes as a whole. So this is going to be my picks. The Powerpuff Girls episode's Birthday Bash, and the episode, the Powerpuff Girls Best Rainy Day Adventure. Those are going to be my picks. Angron, what will your picks be for your favorite Powerpuff Girls episodes?
It's going to be a little tricky, but I think I, too, can also narrow it down to 2 picks. The first one is definitely going to be Boogie Frights and Abracadaver. The first one is basically Kevin Michael Richardson as the Boogeyman, which, hell yes. Also a parody of Star Wars where Bubbles tries to face her fears against the Boogeyman. Other one is Abracadaver. The second part, Abracadaver, is basically, like I said, when the mayor is done right as an elderly man and ultimately really enjoys the whimsy of like stuff like games and also magicians, the stage stuff, it really does work. And I very much appreciate when it does that. And also, this was made into a game on cartoonnetwork.com once upon a time, which is why I bring this particular episode up. But the main one I very much want to talk about is Telephonies and Tough Love. Well, mainly Telephonies. Pretty much the Green Gang are pretty much iconic among the Rogues Gallery of people like Fuzzy Lumpkins, Mojo Jojo, HIM, and also the Amoeba Boys. And also Princess Morbeck to a lesser extent. But yeah, the Green Gang are pretty much just a couple of... they're pretty much Team Skull. They're punks, they know it, they love it. And they're also they're also just a bunch of rowdy teens. Like, seriously, the leader, Ace, got to be part of the Gorillas for a damn good reason for a while when one of the other members was currently out. But that being said, Green Gang, they get a hold of the Powerpuff Girls hotline from the mayor. Hijinks ensue, where they pretty much send the Powerpuff Girls on a wild goose chase to Fuzzy Lumpkin's home, to Mojo Jojo's home, and to HIM's lair, where he pretty much, they're doing aerobics, and it's just so hilarious. Like, it ends in a pretty funny way. All the villains call the mayor's place, and they find out it's the Green Gang from freaking Billy, of all people. The dumbass that he is. And it's so hilarious. I recommend you watch that. But yeah, it's one of the few times where HIM is just basically just chilling, and also it's one of those times where I'm actually rooting for the other villains. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna pick Telephonies.
Yeah, that is a hilarious one, especially because I love how the ending is just the villains ganging up on him and beating the hell out of him. And of course, the mayor comes back to his office, he sees it, he calls the girls, and the girls have been pranked all day long. I think it's another prank, and they just hang up on him, and that is so hilarious. That is really just a funny episode, and so many really great moments with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really, really funny one. And like you said, a lot of the other ones, like you mentioned, is really good too. Like Abracadaver is definitely a really, really dark episode,
Yeah.
Yep. So that's a really good choice there. Let's see. Math, what would your favorite Powerpuff Girls episodes be?
Typically, I go for the Mojo Jojo episodes as my favorites, but there is one episode that tops any of them, and weirdly enough, it's a HIM episode. HIM Diddle Riddle. So this episode is just batshit insane. The best way that I've ever found to describe Him Diddle Riddle is that it's an anti-Powerpuff Girls episode. It is so out of left field for anything they've ever done or even would ever do. It's just, there's no real way to describe it other than just pure insanity. There's no real format to the episode other than the plot of it itself, but it's just, it can go anywhere, it can do anything at any point, largely because of him and his ability to just do whatever he fucking feels like. The jokes in it are so wild and chaotic. Any kind of humor could happen at any point. It's actually really smart the way that they do it. The riddles, the short amount of time that's given for each one of them, it's rather intelligent because those are in real time. Whenever him says, "Oh, you have 2 minutes," that 2 minutes will have actually passed by the time that the task will be done. My favorite part of that being he gives one absolutely insane riddle. You have 2 minutes, 45 seconds. Cut to commercial break. Right back after that. For those who don't remember, that's about the typical length of a commercial break. Everything about it is nuts, and the ending just perfectly encapsulates that because even the announcer's like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to mention the ending of the episode is one of the funniest because I don't want to spoil it for anyone because it's an episode you have to see for the first time for yourself because even as a kid, I remember how I reacted to this ending because, man, it was funny. I was like, I had the same reaction of the narrator at the end. I just stared at it and I was like, that's it? But I don't want to spoil what happens because that's an episode it's really best to go in completely blind because man, it is funny, the ending.
Also, this might be the single smartest and maybe only time the mayor has ever been intelligent and done something intelligent. And it was just wild. See, again, very anti-Powerpuff Girls in every aspect. And it's hilarious how well it works because they are taking it so seriously.
Exactly. And yeah, like I said, that is a great, great choice there. Season 4 really did a lot of half-hour long ones, and not everyone was great, but that one is a standout. That is really, really a great episode right there. But that's a really good one. Let's see. Shark, what would your favorite Powerpuff Girls episode be?
I mentioned the rainy episode as well, but it's already been covered, and yeah, pretty much every single bit I will have mentioned has been mentioned. But another one I also like, and it's funny because it seems I prefer the joke episodes rather than episodes where they actually fight, is the just another Manic Mojo. There were where the Powerpuff Girls lose a baseball ball in Mojo's lair and they go to pick it up, but Mojo sees an opportunity to destroy them there, so he acts all this casual like, "Oh, okay, you girls sit over here and I'll go get the ball," while he prepares a dead laser. But not only that part is hilarious, but like the beginning of the episode, like you see Mojo's morning routine, like he gets up, he takes a shower, and then when he goes to make breakfast, but realizes he has 1 egg, and he goes, "1 egg left? For nutritious breakfast, 2 eggs are the minimum requirement. I have 1 when I should have 2, and it's 2 I need." And then when he goes to the store, he goes down the stairs, he forgets his wallet, so he goes up, then he goes to the bus stop and waits for the lights to change so he can walk, and then in the store, and once again, goes to the clerk and, "Excuse me, sir, can you please direct me to the location where I'll locate some of the eggs? I will purchase them so they can travel home with me and I can eat with it, and maybe tomorrow." So yeah, those kind of stuff where you see the the bad guys just living comfortably, just doing the daily routine. It's pretty funny.
Because why it's so funny is because it's just so, like, he's just acting so normal for, like, an evil supervillain in that. He's acting so, like, completely like an average person. That's what makes it funny,
Yeah.
And then I think,
at the end where everything fails, he's just like, "All right, take your ball and go." I think it's one of that is with the narrator saying that the day was saved by Mojo Jojo. Shut up!
I really loved Mojo because, number one, he's the best villain. Number two, he's the most reoccurring one. And number three, pretty much all of his episodes are classics. Pretty much every single one, if he's in it in a predominant role, it's gonna be good. It's really gonna be funny in its own way. But yeah, that's a great choice there. Anyway, our guest Sharvoun, what is your favorite Powerpuff Girls episode?
Everyone has been mentioning episodes that are either cutely hilarious or charming. Mine is Speed Demon, which is the exact opposite. This might be the darkest TV episodes of all time for a cartoon. In this one, Powerpuff Girls race so fast that they go forwards into the future, where him basically blew Townsville up. Everyone is aged and absolutely insane. And not the funny kind of insane, but more the horrifying insane. Probably the darkest is Miss Keene, who's mourning over her mayor, who all that's left is his hat and his stash. Like, truly saw the mayor as this the wrong way, but she saw the mayor as her own child. So to lose him, like, that must have driven her nuts. And of course, that twisted as hell ending where everyone in Townsville just confronts the Powerpuff Girls after him fights them and turns into a monster. Him doesn't even think to destroy him. He just has the townspeople admonish the Powerpuff Girls for not even being there to stop him. With him saying probably the most haunting words, "All I did was take over. It was easy." Like, it puts into perspective, like, how important, like, despite the fact that this is a cute show, little girls fighting monsters, they have a real responsibility to them. Like, any other, like, one day they're probably going to come across a General Zod type where they're going to have to fight. Like, it goes to show that despite the fact that they're funny, these are still villains looking to do harm. Like, harshly dark it is. Like, it just takes it out of the moment. Thankfully, it ends happily with the girls going back in time to their normal selves, but all I can say is, Steven Universe.
There is a prologue episode of the Powerpuff Girls where they go back in time and they help a young Professor Utonium who is kind of a dick and not really into science as much as another student who they mistake for Utonium. But that kid, strangely enough, according to some people, believe that very kid is the one who would later become him, strangely enough. Meaning something happened to him at some point to lead him down that path away from science, as it were. Don't know what that is, but it's just a theory. A film theory. Anyway.
I guess it's true what the Joker says. All it takes is one bad day. Also, special mention to the Christmas special, but since that's a special and not an episode, I don't really count it. But yeah, my favorite episode is Speed Demon, mostly because of how dark it is. I'm a dark guy, so...
Yeah. That definitely is the darkest Powerpuff Girls episode for reasons that you mentioned, and it's one that definitely has stuck with people because, again, it's a show that really... It's very interesting that Powerpuff Girls even went and did such a thing, but at the same time, it's memorable for all the right reasons, shall we say. It's a very humorless episode. It definitely is, like, you can definitely tell that, again, Craig has a lot of darker stuff in him to do something like that. It's kind of interesting that I think this might be the darkest thing, not counting the movie, out of Powerpuff Girls, come to think of it,
Yep, definitely.
It's like very little humor, very dark imagery in that, and yeah, as a whole, it really great choice right there. But now it is time for the patent-pending Dragoness Scale, where we rank the character. And this one is going to be, of course, the Monster Mother, as I have her listed in the Dragoness Scale. And yeah, for me as a whole, I'm going to give her a pretty high score. Even though she's not really in the episode, I'm still going to give her a really high score. I'm going to give her a 7 out of 10, maybe an 8. But the reason I might give her like an 8 is just because I love the gag behind it, Like, the design is just a parody of like Agra from Gorgo, so that doesn't count. But at the same time, I feel like just the reveal makes it work, and the voice is really nice, soothing to the ears and that. And as a whole, basically with Powerpuff Girls she is a fun character. Like, she's not really a character, she's more of like a plot twist than anything else, but for what they do with it, I think it's pretty cute. I really think it's cute how, again, they do this bit that the Powerpuff Girls really like doing, that the monsters aren't really monsters. A lot of them are just misunderstood. because, of course, there's the one episode where the Hedorah-looking monster basically tells them that it's a rite of passage from monsters on Monster Island to fight the girls, and if they come back, they're a hero. So, yeah, it's one of those things that it feels like the same kind of rules here, with the monster being a mother and her being just an ordinary monster trying to protect her baby. It does work. It really does work. It's a good parody of the movie Gorgo, which, again, we're going to discuss later on in the podcast, or rediscuss, rather, later on in the podcast. And, yeah, as a whole, I really liked what they did with her. Could she have been a little more of the episode, like looking for the baby? Yeah, but at the same time, I think the focus is more on the girls' wacky antics. But, yeah, I'm going to give the female monster a 7 out of 10 in that case. Angron, what would you give her?
I'll give her a little more than that. I have a very high soft spot for Tartakovsky / Renzetti's designs. Here is definitely no different. Did she do too much in this show? No. Is she definitely worth talking about in spite of that? Yes. She is very much a caring individual, in spite of a few visual things that I take a little bit issues with, but that's just me nitpicking. But yeah, I agree. I think she definitely should get more love, and I am, for that reason, giving her an 8 out.
Okay, nice. 8 out of 10. I like that. I definitely get your reasoning behind it again, too, because it is a very appealing design. I love, I think the eye color helps, too. It makes her look so much more appealing in that, and I definitely see where you're coming from. Matt, what would you give her?
I'm a simple man. I see the big giant monster have a sweet motherly voice joke. I like it. 7 out of 10. There's not really much to add. It's just I really like this joke. It's Craig McCracken, so the designs are good. And it's a joke that just works with me, and I'm amazed that we found it 3 separate times, and I guess here's hoping for more.
Definitely. So, yeah, 8 out of 10. That's great. Wonder if we'll keep that train going. Let's see, Shark, what would you give her?
Yeah, I really like the twist, and the design works well, especially if you are aware what they're trying to parody here. Yeah, the voice works well, and I do kind of wish, I get why she couldn't be in most of the episodes, and the main joke is the gears trying to take care of this baby that turns out to be a monster, but I kind of wish there was some slight foreshadowing with her, at least during the battle, or something they could have at least when there's the big pan with all the mothers saying that they aren't their mother, is have her, if you look closely, slowly raising her arm or something like that. A blink and you miss it thing will have really worked for her, but as it is, it's a great character, it's a great design with the whole idea for the twist, so I'm going to give her an 8 out of 10.
I'm going to be honest, she's not in the episode enough for me, but what we got was really effective, thing. The subversion is really funny, the punchlines really work. Grey Delisle, as always, does a great job. I do like the jokes that come with her, but like I said, I do kind of wish that, she was in the episode just a tiny bit more. But again, she was in more of the episode, it would either ruin the punchlines, so I can't be too angry. Overall, I was on the fence and say that I was probably good on the fence in saying that I'm probably going to give her a 6 out of 10, but I'm going to be generous and say it really was funny, and she seems like a decent mom. I do like how she doesn't really admonish the girls for taking her baby. She's really sweet with them, like, oh, you silly girls. Anyways, goodbye.
Okay.
So I'm going to give her a 7 out
of 10. So we're really another week where we're pretty much consistent with the vote here. Same as last week when we did Pearl Sinclair from Dinosaur. But that's going to be it for this episode. If you have any questions, or if you want to see the Powerpuff Girls go up against some of the other female kaiju we have discussed on this show, you can email us at fierydiscourse@outlook.com. Visit us on Twitter at twitter.com/fierydiscourse. Visit us at Blue Sky at Blue Sky Fiery Discourse. Be sure to subscribe to the Fiery Discourse YouTube channel and like and hit the bell icon. Leave a comment. Any comments are appreciated. Also, one of our co-hosts, Lucky Evie, is looking to move to a group home in the UK that will also be in the description. Any help for that will be appreciated. Next week, we're going to be talking about the 2014 The Magicians episode, Home Improvement. And sadly, there is a 0% of Tim Allen in this episode. But this episode is really, really weird. Strap yourselves in, folks, because this is going to be the single weirdest thing we have discussed on the podcast in a very long time.
Yeah, it's sci-fi. Of course, it's gonna be weird.
Yeah, but this is like this also might be one of the more adult things we have discussed in the podcast because it's going to be really, really interesting. But that'll be next week. And until then, thank you all so much for watching and take care.
Later.
Adios. Thank you all so much for watching and see you all next week.